Welcome to r/Reddit Revenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. Thank you friends for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. The first story. A man snaps his fingers at a concierge and calls her a little girl. She retaliates and cancels his booking, revealing herself as the manager. The second story. Nurse covers shifts for desperate manager. Gets written up for arriving late after notifying the clinic of the situation. Nurse quits and months later hears manager was fired. The third story. Soldier left an unsecured radio in a fast food parking lot, so I called his HQ on and told them what I found. Today's first story is, don't call the concierge a little girl. My girlfriend Yue is a concierge at a high-end Niagara Falls hotel. Lately I've gotten in the habit of picking her up after work. Because of this, I've had the pleasure of watching her deal with a-hole customers, and today's was just so juicy I have to share it. Yue was working the check-in desk that's part of her duties, so you can guess she deals with a lot of nuts. I was just chilling in the lobby making googly I love you eyes at her while she was checking in a customer, when this guy walks up and says hey to grab her attention. Yue said, "Sir, I'll be with you in a moment after I finish checking this guest." Guy didn't like that answer and snapped his fingers in her face several times and said, "Hey little girl, I need help now." Yue gets this look in her eyes sometimes. It's a look of pure sass and hate. It's something I like about her. I think it's sexy AF. Yue raises her hands and did exactly what the effer did. Snapped her fingers and said, "Hey little boy, I'm currently with a guest, you're gonna have to wait a few minutes for me to finish." The guy was in shock and shut his mouth and waited. Well, he got up to the front and went on a rant about how she treated him. He's a premium customer. Yue was in full smiles customer service mode. She looked up his booking and said, "You have the basic economy room today, sir." The guy decided to be pushy and said, "Well, you're going to be upgrading me at no cost for the trouble." Yue said, "Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I can upgrade you, but there's going to be an upcharge." The guy decided to be prickly and said, "Well, how would you like it if I cancel my booking?" Yue replied with, "So, sir, you want to cancel your booking?" The guy doesn't know Yue and Yue is spicy. Another thing I love about her. The guy said, "Well, if you don't upgrade me now, how's that going to make you look?" And Yue put on a worried face and said, "So if I don't upgrade you right now, you're going to cancel?" And the guy said, "Yeah, that's right." Yue smiled and said, "Okay, sir, I understand." Yue did something on the computer, looked up and smiled and said, "Okay, sir, you're all fixed up, you're good to go. Have a nice day." The guy has this look of confusion on his face and said, "What?" Yue was, "Oh, I canceled your booking." Guy was not happy and realized that his D-ish behavior is not going to get him any free upgrades. The guy gave up and said, "Fine, I'll take my room." Yue goes back to her computer and looks up with a big smile to say, "Unfortunately, sir, we're fully booked for the night." Yue just smiled and told him to have a nice day. Dude full-on got peeved and said he needs to speak to the manager. Once again, Yue replied with a smile and pointed to her name tag. "Oh, sir, I am the manager." Guy didn't get anything he wanted. Guy didn't get to stay in the hotel and I got to watch my girl in action. Some side information, I'm very proud of Yue. She just got her promotion about a month ago. Her drive always impresses me. That guy got what he deserved. It's funny how quickly people forget their manners when they think they can get something for free. How people think they can treat others like garbage and still expect to get what they want. I'm just glad Yue was there to put him in his place. It's like they say, don't mess with the concierge or you might find yourself checking out. I can't help but admire Yue's sass and confidence, and it's no wonder she got that promotion. I especially love the way she snapped her fingers back at him, and then canceled his booking with a smile on her face. Yue is not just a concierge, she's the manager. That guy must have felt so foolish. Maybe next time the guy will think twice before being rude to someone who's just doing their job. He'll even learn some manners along the way. All in all, it's a win for Yue and a lesson for the guy. The second story is revenge for attempted write-up. So I got a side job as a float dialysis nurse in a clinic. I picked up this job because that region was desperately in need of a nurse who would be able to work at a different work starting hours ranging from as early as 3 a.m. to as late as 9 a.m. I picked the job because the recruiter offered to pay me a $10K sign-on bonus. Unfortunately, the relatively new staff float manager, Steve, was not a healthcare manager. He was a former restaurant owner whose restaurant had shut down during COVID. I was scheduled to work 2 to 3 times per week for 12-hour shifts. Sometimes I woke up as early as 2 a.m. to open clinics. Most people won't do that, but I was used to working such hours. Steve often made errors in the monthly scheduling of staff to work certain clinics in that region, but the float team decided to give him some leeway because he was new to the industry. Steve once again made a schedule error on one particular month, and even while I was on vacation. called me and pleaded with me to kindly cover for some days the next week, even though I was supposed to be off on those days. Because of his desperation, I decided to do him the favor. I was scheduled to work a particular clinic at 7 a.m. about 3 times that week. On my first day going to work in that clinic, I got stuck in traffic on my way to work and had to arrive at about 7:30 a.m. I called the clinic ahead to let them know the situation. Remember, I was not supposed to work on that day, but it was simply me doing Steve a favor. When I arrived at that clinic, the charge nurse was pretty angry with me for arriving late, even though I had called ahead and informed them of the situation. Unknown to me, she reported my lateness to Steve. After working throughout that week and covering all the clinics Steve begged me to cover while cutting my vacation short, I got a call from Steve summoning me to the float office. I didn't know why I was being called, but I went over to see him. When I arrived, he told me that the charge nurse of the clinic reported my lateness to him and recommended that I be written up because I was not there at 7 a.m. Steve then pushed a write-up document to me and notified me that he was writing me up for lateness. I tried to hide my shock and explain the entire situation about calling the clinic, to notify them of my lateness prior to 7 a.m. I also reminded him that I was actually doing him a favor by cutting short my vacation to cover for the emergency. He said he was sorry but had to write me up. It seemed like he was trying to establish himself as an authority because he was new to the industry and needed to add a few notches to his belt. I asked him if he really was going to write me up for this. He said, "I'm sorry, but you leave me no choice." I smiled at him and said, "It was nice working with you, Steve. I quit. Good luck filling my position." It was at that moment that Steve realized he had messed up. The company had spent 6 months trying to find a nurse who would fill that position before I accepted it. My words made Steve realize how much he had just messed up, and made a very reliable employee just quit a position that had been extremely difficult. Also, my quitting was going to make him look bad before management because he was just new on the job, and had already lost one employee. Steve tore up the write-up sheet and told me, "Okay, please, can we just forget about everything that just happened? Forget about this write-up, and forget about this conversation. I really need you right now because it's almost winter and clinical staffing needs are rising." I replied politely, "I'm sorry, Steve. I quit. Have a nice day." Steve asked me not to leave and began to actually beg me to stay. I understood how bad it would look on him because the position had been transferred to him by management. The former float pool manager was a Filipina who is one of the sweetest ladies I've ever met. She managed and grew the float pool team successfully for 2 years, and just 2 months after handing it over to good old Steve, he just lost one reliable employee in a crucial position. I felt sorry for Steve, but since he tried to screw me over, I was going to do the same to him. I stood up, took my stethoscope from the locker, and left the building. This was back in fall of 2021. A few months later, I called a fellow nurse who still worked on the float team and asked about Steve. They said he had been fired. I smiled widely at the news. Edit. That's one of the horrors that happens when you hire non-industry people. Healthcare hours are usually 12 for a reason, and healthcare workers are the least people any manager should try to bully because they're in high demand. We can easily find a job within 1 day, after quitting. Management will have to spend more money hiring travelers and trying to recruit new staff. They'll come down extra hard upon that new manager. That's what happens when you try to mess with a nurse. Steve probably should have stuck to managing restaurants instead of trying to handle the complexities of healthcare staffing. But you know what they say, when one door closes, another one opens. Never mess with a nurse, especially one who wakes up at 2 a.m. to save lives. And to make matters worse, he lost a valuable employee who had been filling a crucial position for the past few months. Steve was sweating bullets when he realized that he was going to have to explain to management why he had lost a reliable nurse. As for our nurse, I hope she found a new job with a manager who knows what they're doing and appreciates her hard work. And who knows, maybe she'll run into Steve again in the future, serving her a slice of pizza or asking if she wants fries with that. Revenge is a dish best served cold, but I think our nurse has already had her fill. Time to move on and let Steve deal with the consequences of his actions. Never mess with a nurse, especially one who wakes up at 2 a.m. to save lives. The last story is, all you had to do was be nice. I would have helped. For those of you who are ever in the military, you get it. Unsecured commo equipment, i.e. left alone, is a no-no. I mean, obviously we don't want the bad guys listening in on us. So if one does go missing, there will be an installation-wide shutdown and upturn everything everywhere until it's found. Bad day for any and everyone. And oh, does it suck to be the guy who lost it. With that little prefacing out of the way, on with the show. While back, I'm stationed at a major army installation, post, but I'm soon to move to another duty assignment. Great timing because the rest of the division is out in the field training. It's a massive 45-day exercise with all the equipment, tents, and vehicles. They treat these events like an actual deployment. It's pretty cool. They even have mock bad guys to shoot, blanks. But since I'm moving soon, I'm not part of the exercise. I'm in the rear packing and clearing documents. At one point, I get hungry and decide it's time for a Whopper. Yes, we have BK on these installations. I get my burger to go. I'm crossing the parking lot of BK, and a Hummer pulls in real quick. 3 guys rush for the door. They're in a hurry. I notice that there's a radio and the mount on the dash. Now, it's not unheard of to send someone to the rear for a specific reason. Forgotten equipment. Someone forgot medication. Got hurt and sick, whatever. But when you do go back for these reasons, you're only supposed to do that one thing. Then get back to the field ASAP. Stopping at BK for some real food is not one of those reasons. That's also a no-no. And I get it, I would have run in for a burger too. But there's a radio. Hey, you should probably leave someone to watch that radio, man, I call out. The senior man in the group, a sergeant like me, points out, it's locked in there, it's not going anywhere. And under normal circumstances, he's right. One of the reasons we padlock those things is to keep them from wandering off. But he's in the middle of a division-wide exercise. Could have just as easily been an officer or senior enlisted to walk up and find this thing. You're still not supposed to leave those things unattended, especially here. In the BK parking lot. And if he'd been cool about it, I would have even offered to watch it for him. But he was a D. Look, man, mind your own effing business, alright? We're in a hurry. And he runs in the door. Okay, let's play. I go to the Humvee to get on the mic of the radio. HQ. Command name. This is Humvee bumper over. It's painted on the front and back of the truck. The radio responds. Humvee number, this is HQ. Go ahead. HQ thought you should know. I found this vehicle parked outside of BK on post unattended. Over. There's a pause. Humvee number, say again, over. Oh, this part feels so good. HQ again, I say. Humvee number is sitting at the BK with this radio unsecure and unattended. Thought you should know, over. Another pause. Who is this? I would have given them my name, but I had to get back to the office and didn't want to get involved. If I'd given them my name, they'd have had me watch the radio and give a report and yada yada. Maybe even get the MPs involved. So instead, I just told them I was a concerned citizen. Then I left. Sadly, I don't know what exactly happened to our intrepid little BK-eating troops. I was cleared and down the road by the time that exercise ended. I didn't even know who they were, but I got a pretty good idea that if their life sucked for the remainder of the exercise, if not for many moons to follow. I know some of you will downvote the SH out of this for me snitching, but that's not why I did it. All he had to do was not be a D. How hard is that? I hope the burgers were worth it. If only they had been nice to our storyteller, they wouldn't have had to deal with the hassle of a missing radio. I think next time they'll think twice before choosing fast food over following military protocols. And to think all they had to do was be nice and listen to a helpful suggestion. Remember, folks, always be kind to others, or you might end up with a side of trouble to go with your fast food. Subscribe, hit the like button, and have a nice day. Thank you for watching.